All the hype right now is about mini drivers. People wanting to replace their driver or even trying to find something that's going to replace a fairway wood. And you might think that mini drivers are new to the market. Well, actually, they've been around a lot longer than you think. Now, for £9.99, I was able to buy online a Callaway Hawkeye 2 wood. Now, the Callaway Hawkeye 2 wood, again, it's kind of gone out of circulation for many years, but it's a club that is actually, I think, been replaced by the mini driver. I've got the Callaway Elite driver here, the mini version, which has got 11.5 degrees of loft, and the old 2 woods used to range between 11 and 13 degrees of loft. And actually, from a similarity point of view, they're actually the same length, which means that I should be creating some similar clubhead speeds. So I wanted to put these two to the test because one obviously cost me £9.99 and the other one cost £330 brand new. So, is there an option out there for you to find a mini driver for actually a little bit less than you think? And actually it's going to perform for you on the golf course. Let's take them both to the studio and see how they get on. Well, we'll talk about the numbers that I'm getting with these two clubs in just a moment. I'm going to hit some shots here in the studio, give you a bit of an idea as to how they're kind of feeling to me, how they're looking, what they make me feel when I'm setting up to them and when I obviously strike them. But the first thing you're going to notice when you look down on both of these clubs is just maybe a slight difference in size from these two particular clubs. And you've got to think, over time, drivers and fairway woods have actually got a little bit bigger to inspire maybe a little bit more confidence. But you've got to remember, back in the day when the old Hawkeye, Great Big Bertha Hawkeye first came out, this was a big club. You know, it felt big when you set it up behind the ball. It gave you that little bit of extra confidence. But moving on a few more generations, we're now seeing the mini driver, which is kind of smaller than what you'd see out of a normal driver, but actually a lot bigger than what you would see out of a current fairway wood. So let's hit some shots with them. Let's get a few numbers, but let's also talk about kind of how they're feeling to me personally off a tee peg, but also what do they feel like when we're hitting them off the deck. So a little bit pulley there on the first shot, but the first thing you're going to kind of think about when it comes to a mini driver is who is it actually aimed at? Who wants to put one of these in the bag? Now, the experimenting that I've done over time is that the mini driver, I think, is going to work for lots of golfers that struggle with their driver. That's kind of where we've kind of been at, really, for those players that don't necessarily have the confidence with the driver. I think having something that's slightly shorter in length than what you'd see out of a normal driver, let's say, because about 3 inches difference, let's say, from what's on the shelf to what we've got in here, so a little bit shorter. That's going to give a little bit more confidence, getting closer to the golf ball, things like that. But it's also going to give players that, let's say, want to replace a fairway wood, and this is what you're seeing a lot more on tour now. You're seeing players put these in. Someone like Tommy Fleet would be a prime example, putting a mini driver in because they want to replace their fairway wood. It's a go-to club off the tee, which is great, but it's also a club that they can get out there maybe just a little bit further when we get on the fairway. However, what I would say to those players that are looking to maybe put it in as a replacement to the fairway wood, what you've got to be careful of when it comes to these clubs is they're quite deep in their approach from sort of the bottom leading edge to the top edge. And that deep effect is designed to try and, let's say, probably reduce a little bit of spin, but it also makes it really hard to launch it off the ground. That's my experience on them. So what you're probably going to need in order to be able to get these things to launch nicely off the deck, when you're going into par 5s or longer par 4s, you're going to need lots of speed. That's really, really important. And obviously the players on tour, people like I said, Tommy Fleetwood, they've got the speed. I probably don't have the speed, which is why I've struggled putting one of these in the bag. But the other thing that I've noticed with them is that when you do miss-hit them in comparison to, let's say, a fairway wood, they do work really, really well. So they're getting us out there with the extra bits of ball speed with those off-centered strikes. But now picking up the 2 wood, this is similar size to the fairway wood that I use. My 3 wood in my bag, which is a Titleist GT2, I think it is. This is probably, from a profile point of view, very, very similar. However, slightly different to my own Titleist fairway wood, which is a little bit shallower in its profile from leading edge to top edge. This one being just a little bit deeper, but not as deep as what I'm seeing out of that mini driver. So if I'm honest with you, for me personally, it looks just like a fairway wood in my hand. However, just feeling maybe a little bit longer in the shaft because this one again is 43 inches in length. Let's give it a go. but I've hit this now a few times. And I've got to say, I probably prefer the feel out of this particular head compared to the modern stuff. I don't know if you can sense it or hear it when through the screen there, but I'm getting more of a tinny kind of sound off the face. I'm not saying it's more powerful or anything like that. I'm just saying that from a feel point of view, I'm getting a much softer feel off the face. And actually in modern tech nowadays with drivers and things like that, I don't feel like there's a massive difference in sense of soft or hard feeling off the face. I think it's more in the acoustics that you get, and companies move them around, don't they, over time, depending on what generation we're moving into or what tour players are looking for. Some like it a little bit louder, some like it a little bit duller off the face. This one definitely a little bit louder than the Elite Mini. Oh, it feels so good. I mean, the numbers, even just looking at the numbers that I'm getting out of there, that ball speed there, 140 mile an hour off the club face. Okay, pulled it a little bit, got a little bit maybe too much spin on it because I got it at 3,500 revs. But carry-wise, 225 yards off the T-peg. That's not bad. Very similar to what I'm seeing at this moment in time out of the Mini. Let's just hit a couple off the deck and just see if there's a slight difference with these two as well. Now remember, off this mat, this is quite a tight mat. So when I'm setting up down by the ball now with the Elite Mini driver, there's not a lot of room for error here, okay? So I'm expecting this to be caught a little bit lower on the face, which is gonna maybe launch a little bit lower and then maybe spin up if it can, but it's not inspiring me with a massive amount of confidence just to kind of pick this off the ground and launch it up in the air. Yeah, a little bit thin. Did exactly what I expected it to do. Obviously ball speed dropped down at 136 that time. Only carried 203 yards because the strike was just a little bit poor. But definitely from a launch point of view, came out very, very low, spinning it at 2,500 revs. Let's give it another go, see if I can get one up in the air a bit easier. That was better. Had to feel like I really got on top of it. Yeah, ball speed up there, 141, but this is the main reason, and I've done loads of testings, and some of the people will know who've watched the videos will know that I've done lots of testing when it comes to these, because I've really wanted to try and put one in the bag to get me out there just a little bit further. That one there though, that got 124 yards in the air, so we got a little bit more out of that, and I launched it a little bit better. But all in all, if I'm honest with you, this is the main reason why I've not been able to put a Mini in the bag, because I just can't launch it that well when I get out onto the golf course. And actually, my 3-wood performs a lot better off the deck. Let's look at that 2-wood. Well, I said it looks more like my fairway wood. It does give me more confidence, I've got to say, compared to what I'm seeing out of the Mini, because I feel like that leading edge and maybe it's a little bit shallower, maybe because it's a smaller head. I feel like this may be giving me a bit more confidence setting up. Exactly the same shot as what I hit on the first shot with that Mini, a little bit thin. But if you remember, I only got 206 yard carry out of that Mini to get us going with, whereas that one there got 220 yards in its carry. So I got a little bit more out of this 2-wood than I did that Mini driver. Let's give it another go. Again, I'm definitely feeling more confident with this, even just that one swing. That was better, a little bit drop kicky, but still better. Again, launching really high off the face that time. Yeah, 220 yard carry. Not, if I'm honest with you, not a massive amount of difference that I'm seeing off the deck with these two clubs. Maybe just finding it a little bit easier with that 2-wood. Now, with that in mind, we've seen the looks, we know it's slightly bigger, we're probably inspiring lots of confidence off the tee, but let's take a closer look at the numbers and see how these are actually performing. Well, this has been an interesting experiment. Going into the numbers of what I've actually been getting in here in the studio, I've hit 6 shots with each. Obviously, I've hit a few more, and we've talked about those as we kind of worked our way through hitting these different clubs. But from a carry, let's just go with carry to start us off with, okay? And I'll talk about dispersion and ball speed and things like that. But just from a carry point of view, looking at the Elite Mini, I've got 230 yards as an average carry that I'm getting. This is from a very small T-peg, so pegging it right down. If I compare that to the 2-wood, I'm getting 227 yards on average carry. So there's 3 yards difference when it comes to the actual carry, with the Elite Mini just going that little bit further. So for those of you out there that probably thought that I would get maybe a little bit more out of the Mini driver, well, there's not a great deal of difference, if I'm honest with you. Let's go to ball speed from both of them as well. So the Elite Mini giving us 143 mile an hour off the club face on an average. But if you compare that to the 2-wood, I'm getting 141 mile an hour of ball speed. Now, yes, we talked about the fact that there's a difference in size, but ultimately when it comes to loft, there's no real difference in them. So I would expect to see those ball speeds being actually very close. And from what we're seeing here, 2 mile an hour difference is absolutely nothing. But you can see there with that 2 mile an hour difference, why we're seeing a little bit more of an extra bit of yardage out of the Elite Mini compared to what we're seeing out of that 2-wood. But when it comes to the dispersion side of things, this is where I think the 2-wood, and personally when I was hitting it, I felt the 2-wood really kind of performing. Every time I looked up, it felt like it was really heading towards my target. The average distance that I'm getting from the Elite Mini, we're getting it out there at 26 yards on an average width around what we're seeing from the actual hole itself. But if you compare that to what I'm seeing out of the 2-wood, well, I'm getting 21 yards. So I'm a little bit tighter when it comes to the dispersion out of the 2-wood compared to the Elite Mini. So really, when you think about the numbers that we're getting from how much it's actually cost me to put these 2 clubs in the bag, I'm getting an awful lot more, I think, out of the Great Big Bertha Hawkeye than I am out of the Elite Mini. Well, that was absolutely fascinating. There's 25 years difference in technology here, and really, what have we seen? A couple of yards, 3 yards maximum? Yes, there's a difference in the look of these 2 clubs because the older one being slightly smaller in its profile, but then moving into the Mini, well, that is again a little bit bigger than this one. But what does that mean? Does that mean that you're giving more confidence? I would say off the tee box, off a tee peg, yes, the Mini is going to give us that little bit more confidence because it's bigger in its profile. The mishits are going to be helped out with the artificial intelligence in the face that we've got kind of going on there. However, I'm not going to lie, if I was going to probably put one of these in the bag, I would probably put the Hawkeye, only because the idea of this club for me personally would be to help it get off the fairway. Therefore, I felt a little bit more confident out of the Hawkeye coming off the deck than I did the Elite Mini. But let's be fair, 25 years, that's a quarter of a century. And what have we got difference here? I've got to say, you know, between 300 and 330 pounds for the Elite Mini compared to £9.99 that I managed to pick this up for secondhand online. You know, and 3 yards is all I'm getting with it. And the fact that I'd probably put one in that's slightly older compared to the other one in the bag, amazing. I'd like to hear down in the comments, would you consider putting one of these back in the bag as a replacement for your own fairway wood, or even a replacement for your driver? Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again on the next video. But I think we need a little bit more testing with the 2-wood.